Our mind is really powerful, and we can do amazing, incredible things, especially when we give it the attention that we need. So today we're going to continue talking about inside the mind of a successful trader. And it might be easier if I set it up over here. Well, we'll just leave it. And so a quick little reminder, trading psychology is basically your thoughts and your beliefs along with your emotions and your feelings. So a lot of times I hear people talk about trading psychology and they talk about emotions, but it's more than that. It includes your thoughts and your beliefs. And while emotions are important, our thoughts and our beliefs are more accessible. So focusing on and easier to change. So focusing on our thoughts and beliefs is a really helpful way to improve our performance as traders and improve sort of how we think about ourselves and how we function ourselves as traders. So we know that trading psychology, your thoughts, beliefs, emotions, and feelings impact your behavior. They also impact your performance. When we're looking at most traders, so traders who are maybe struggling or are unsuccessful, those traders tend to worry about things that are outside of their control. So which way the market's going to go, they worry about whether or not they're going to make a profit or a loss. And that causes a lot of stress and unnecessary worry because we can't control those things, right? That's outside of our control. But a successful trader will focus on what is controllable, what can be controlled. So a successful trader knows that after entering a trade, the outcome is out of their control. They can't control the market. They can't control news. They can't control weird movement in price action. There's no stress or unnecessary worry on those things. Instead, the focus is on themselves. What do they need to do to trade well, to do the things that they need to do? And we talked about yesterday, some of the things that we can do include really focusing on our thoughts and our beliefs as traders. So our thoughts about ourselves again, but also, for example, thinking about the value of a stop loss. What is the purpose of a stop loss? Why do we have it there? And it's different when we are inside a trade, right? When money's involved and emotions are involved, then our thoughts about stop losses tend to be different than before a trade. Before a trade, there's no emotion, there's no money. So it's easier to be logical about the purpose and the value of a stop loss. So it's really important. That's why we do the mindset warm up, so that we can remind ourselves of what we want, what we actually believe, and what we want to believe and want to remember when we're actually in the trade. Okay. So again, focusing on our thoughts and our beliefs helps us as we're trading. Rehearsal, so thinking about our plan ahead of time. This is basically like practice, right? You can do it as you're trading as well. Visualization, thinking about your purpose, and journaling. Journaling can be much easier than writing out a big history of your emotions and your thoughts and your feelings. Just keep it simple, or you won't do it, or at least I won't do it if it's not simple. All right, so let's talk today. Before we get any further, before we move on to the habits of a successful trader, are there any questions or comments so far, or anything from yesterday that you wanted to talk about of what we've gone over so far? The thoughts inside the mind of a successful trader. Everybody's so quiet today. All right, so let's talk about the habits of a successful trader. So first of all, a stop loss. A stop loss is super important. Whether it's a hard stop or a soft stop, having a point where you are willing to cut your losses, because if you've seen my trading plan, you know that I have reminders to myself that a single trade, we focus so carefully on every single trade to make sure that we're doing it right. But in the end, it doesn't matter that single trade. It's the many, many, many trades over time, over the long run, many, many trades that make a difference and that actually matter. So if we believe that, if we truly believe that a stop loss, whether again, it's a hard stop or a soft stop or a mental stop, meaning a soft stop, we have to have a place where we're willing to say, okay, I got it. Never mind. I'm out. Okay. This is a very, very important way of protecting your account. I love how ICT talks about stop loss as an insurance policy. That when I heard him say that really resonated with me, because I didn't tend to think of it that way. I tended to think of it more as a nuisance or annoying when my stop would get hit. And it is annoying. It is frustrating, right? But the point is, it's an insurance policy to protect your account and allow you to trade another day. So super important to have a stop loss. A successful trader follows a trading plan. So I asked on YouTube how many people, and I haven't checked recently. Let me see if I can pull it up real quickly here. I asked on YouTube how many people kept a trading plan and how many people actually followed their trading plan. And, think about that for yourself. And let me show you what people said. So I asked if people have a written trading plan. Let me make sure that is up and you can see it here. No, you cannot. Oh, here we go. All right. So I asked how many people have a written trading plan. Written. It's really important that it be written, right? 55% said they did. 45% said they didn't. I thought that was pretty interesting. 55% said they had a written trading plan, and 45% said they did not. The next question I asked the next day was, I have a written trading plan and I follow it. Okay. So of the 55% that said they have a written trading plan, more than half said they don't follow it, right? That's one of the keys to being a successful trader, having a written plan. But if you have a written trading plan and you don't follow it, it's almost like you might as well not even have it, right? So if you do not have a written trading plan, I highly recommend that you think about having a written trading plan and seeing how that might change your trading success. But even if you have a written trading plan, you have to follow it, right? So we've been working on that a lot on this channel. Last Friday, we wrote a trading plan together based on ICT's 2022 model, and you don't have to do it on that. It can be whatever your model is that you want to use. That was just an example. But if you'd like to see that, you can check out that video. And we're thinking about different ways on this channel to help each other get even better at this, because it can be hard. It can be hard. It's hard to create a trading plan. It's hard to buy into sticking to a trading plan. And it's hard to, on a daily basis, complete the trading plan and abide by the trading plan. So this is encouragement for you and also for myself. These are the things that I want to do. These are things that I know are super important and super helpful. And so we're continuously looking for ways that we can help each other do this to be better traders on this channel. So if you have comments or ideas, thoughts on that, go ahead and leave a comment on this video. I'd love to get your feedback on ways that we could work together as a group, maybe in Discord or whatever it is, whatever ideas you have, let us know in the comment section. All right, risks appropriately. So successful traders risk appropriately. This is part of having the stop loss, but also taking the appropriate amount of risk. So if you have a stop loss and you take, 20 losses in a day, that's probably not a good example of risking appropriately, although it might be. It could be in your trading plan, but again, it needs to be in the trading plan. Also taking outsized risks. it is possible, although it's unlikely, it is possible that a successful plan with edge could have 20 consecutive losses. That is very unlikely. It's very improbable, but it is possible. So if that happens to you, do you have a plan for that? Do you know how much to risk in order to make sure that you don't blow up your account if you were to take a string of 20 losses? Not only that, but there's also issues with your mindset, right? If you take 20 losses in a row, that is going to be very difficult to stomach. Do you have a plan for how to do that and how you're going to recover from that? So these are important things to be thinking about. And I had one other point there that is escaping me. Your mental capital, your trading capital. Okay, we'll come back to it. All right. And then another is accepting losses and focusing on a series of trades. So what this means is when your stop does get hit or when you take a loss, that you accept that it's okay. I will take that loss, leave the stop in place and walk away, and recognize that it's the series of trades, not just this one trade. Again, especially when you're starting out, but even, I've been trading for quite a while and I still, sometimes I think, why did that trade not work out? The setup was perfect. It should have worked out, right? That is not a good habit. That is not a way of thinking that is going to help you. You want to think about the series of trades, okay? So over 30 trades do you have edge? Over 100 trades do you have edge? Over 500 trades do you have edge? Not a single trade. This is one of the reasons I think backtesting can be helpful, because at least for me, I still can have an emotional response in backtesting. Emotional and mental. And what I mean by that is if I'm backtesting, obviously it's not the same as if you're trading live money. But if I'm backtesting and I take a long string of losses, I begin to think, am I doing this wrong? Is something wrong? What's going on? Why is this not working, right? This is a strategy that I know has edge. And yet, if I take too many losses, even in a back test, I start to scratch my head a little bit. On some level, that's a good thing, right? Because when you're back testing and you're clicking through, you can sort of stray from your plan and just sort of be like going through the motions and missing steps. Okay. So it is good to review and to make sure, am I actually trading my plan here? That's good. But it is funny how even in a back test, you can start to question yourself and question, am I doing this right? And sometimes you are, and it's just how things are playing out. So we need to be able to keep the line between, actually reviewing your behavior when it's appropriate and, forgetting that we're relying on an edge in a series of trades. All right. And then the last habit of a successful trader that I want to talk about today is focusing on process versus outcome. Process versus outcome. And what does that mean? Basically, what that means is kind of what we've been talking about. So you're not judging your performance based on your P&L, okay? Because any single trade is meaningless. Even a series of like 3, 4, 5 trades is essentially meaningless. It is a series of trades, long series of trades that matters, okay? So it is possible for you to completely screw up your trading plan, go completely rogue, risk way too much, not do any of the things that you said you were going to do, and turn out green for the day, okay? It's also possible for you to follow your trading plan to the letter, risk the exact amount that you were supposed to risk according to what you said you were going to risk, and do all those things absolutely perfectly and come out red for the day, losing money for the day is what I mean. So it is really important to focus on the process, the trading well piece, rather than the outcome. The outcome is typically win or lose. make money, lose money, red P&L, green P&L. Okay, that's the outcome. And again, back to what we were talking about before, successful traders focus on what they can control. Okay, what they can control is how much they risk and themselves, specifically their thoughts and how they show up to the market. Okay, how they behave and how they think. They cannot control what the market does, if a trade wins or loses, what price action is like. And so our goal needs to be focusing on the process, trading well, showing up, risking appropriately, following the trading plan. That can result in an A+ day, even if you end up losing money for the day, because losing money is baked in. It's part of the plan. We know that we're going to take losses and we know that we're going to have losing days. That's just the way it is. That's what we want to focus on, though, the process rather than the outcome. This is something that takes, for me anyway, a lot of reminding, right? It's so much easier to think about, did I make money or did I lose money today? Okay. But really the goal is to be compliant with your trading plan, to do the right things day in, day out, and progress that way. So those are the habits of a successful trader. So I'm curious to hear from you. What did I miss? What are some habits that you think are super important? Either in the chat or if you're watching this video on replay, let me know if I missed anything. Habits that successful traders have that make a big difference. All right, let's see. All right, anyone want to jump in and add something to the list of successful trader habits? Everybody's quiet today. Today is, I'm calling it Thoughtful Thursday. And the reason is because really our thoughts are so important to how we succeed as a trader. Our thoughts are what changes our behavior. So when we talk about trading psychology, we talked about the thoughts and beliefs and emotions. And that is not the same as behaviors, right? So behaviors, a lot of times I will see people talk about consistency and discipline, but those are behaviors. They're not trading psychology. However, they're related to our thoughts and our emotions because our thoughts and our emotions are what impact ultimately our behavior. And so we're really focusing on the thought piece of the equation, right? Emotions are valid. They're a part of the process, but they are difficult to change. Our thoughts, however, are easy to change. We can tell ourselves what we want ourselves to think, right? So this is an important distinction. So sometimes there's what we think before we get to the charts, right? How we think about stop losses, for example. Before we get to the chart, before we start trading, we think, oh, a stop loss is really important. I know logically it's really going to help protect my account. When money gets involved and emotions get involved, we don't always feel that way. A lot of times when that's the case, we feel like, it's out to get me, or it's, it's annoying, or it's unhelpful, or it's frustrating, whatever it is. But ahead of time, we think differently, right? Because there's no money and no emotions involved. And so when we're telling ourselves things ahead of time, we're practicing remembering those thoughts, remembering that way of thinking, so that when we are live in a trading account, when we are trading, we have emotion and we have money on the line, we're thinking the way that we want to be thinking and reminding ourselves of the truths that we want to remember. Evelyn said, oh, yes, I do have to focus on the process. It's amazing how easy it is to get off of that track, right? To get focused on the outcome, right? Even when you're looking at, and this is their job, right? The broker or the trading platform to tell you what your P&L is. That reinforces, okay, so it's the outcome, it's the outcome, it's the outcome. And like I said, that's their job. That's what they are. They have to present to you. That is why you show up to look at those pages, right? How am I performing? And that is important. But the best traders are going to have losing days. The best traders are going to have red days. They may even have losing weeks, losing months, and that's just part of it. And so if we're judging ourselves on the outcome, that's really complex and complicated because we can't control that. We're not actually a part of the market and price action. We are not involved in how that turns out. We can only act in that environment, but we can't actually control it or have anything to do with it. So that's where having a checklist and having a way to judge your performance can really, really be helpful, because you can be a part of that equation. Good morning, Majortini. I'm so sorry. I don't know. Majortini, maybe? Welcome. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. All right. Any other questions or comments on any of this information? I want to jump over to a couple other different slides here. And this is something that we've talked about before. Let me see here if I can get it up. I think it's this one. Yeah. All right. So, oh, I got it right. Majortini. Oh, great. Well, thank you so much for joining us. I'm so glad you found us, and thanks for hanging out. All right. So let's talk about this here. So again, we're focusing on the thoughts today and inside the mind of a successful trader and the thoughts that are going to help us, how the emphasis on thinking, how we think about our activities as traders and also how we think about ourselves as traders can impact our performance, can impact how we show up to the market. So when we tend to think that a situation, any given, what am I trying to say, like trigger or experience creates an emotion, okay? So when my stop gets hit, that would be the situation. The emotion that I experience is fill in the blank. Maybe it's anger, maybe it's fear, maybe it's sadness, maybe it's disgust. Those are the primary negative emotions. So when my stop loss gets hit, I feel this emotion, okay? The reality is, though, it's not the situation that causes the emotion. That is not the issue. Our emotions don't come from the situation itself. They come from how we think about the situation, okay? So if you think about that, the way you can think about this is if my stop gets hit, okay, I may have a certain emotion versus someone else, another trader stop gets hit and they have a different emotion. Okay, so it isn't the situation that causes the emotion, it's how we think about the situation, the meaning that we give to the situation. So one person, when their stop gets hit, might experience, like I said, anger, fear, sadness, disgust. Another person might not really experience any emotion, okay? They might just think, okay, moving on. And someone else, I doubt that anyone gets their stop hit and typically is happy after it. However, I know that it is possible because if you've ever had your stop get hit and you take a small loss and then price just absolutely crumbles and you think, whew, I'm so, I'm glad I got out when I did. It could have been a lot worse, right? So again, it's not the situation that causes the emotion. It's how we think about the situation that causes the emotion. All right. how you interpret the meaning of the situation. So again, when ICT is talking about a stop as an insurance policy, that's a very unemotional, kind of like detached way of thinking about a very common, I mean, we get stopped out of positions all the time. It happens all the time. And so it makes sense logically to have that type of, it's an insurance policy, whatever, moving on, right? But for many traders, the emotion that is attributed to that experience is much greater. Oh my gosh, I'm never going to make this work. Oh, I can't believe, being really angry or something like that. And so we can, again, think about our thoughts in between the situation and the emotion. Okay. So if a situation is occurring and there's an emotion, it's the thoughts in the middle that are causing the emotion. If we don't like the emotion, or the emotion is causing some kind of behavior that is disruptive or undesirable for trading, again, we need to focus on the thoughts. I have a video that talks about fight or flight, and it is called "Why Am I So Afraid of Losing?" I believe. It was just recently posted on my on my channel here. Let's see if I can share this with you. So if you go on my YouTube channel and okay. So on my YouTube channel here, you can see this video here. Why am I so afraid of losing? This is a video that talks about what you can do about it. So why am I so afraid of losing, and what to do about it? Talks about, some things that I think might be helpful to you. So maybe you could check that out. I talk about the fight, flight, and freeze response. And check it out. Let me know if it's helpful. All right, let me get back to my slides here. Thank you, Lufkin. Good morning. I'm so glad. I hope they help. We need these reminders, right? I need these reminders myself. Thank you so much for the encouragement, and I appreciate you commenting on a bunch of my videos. That's really helpful to me as I'm trying to grow the channel, so thank you so much. All right, so again, the thoughts are where we have our control. It is very difficult to try and control your emotions, but you can change your thoughts, and that can produce a result that's different. And again, if we become angry, if we become sad, if we become, disgusted or fearful, it impacts our behavior, and that can cause problems for ourselves as traders. So we really want to be in charge, in command of how we think. How we think is the most important element of trading psychology. I have not ever heard anyone talk about this in the trading space, but this is what it is. This is how you change things. I still struggle sometimes in trading, and when I get overwhelmed with emotion or just behavior out of control, this is where I have to come back to. It is my thoughts. My thoughts are powerful. My thoughts are the access that I have in order to change my behavior, change my emotions, and change my outcomes. Again, when I'm talking about changing outcomes, I don't mean outcomes win or lose, profit or loss. I'm talking about outcomes of my compliance to a trading plan. Okay. That is what I control. So a successful trader knows you cannot control the market. You cannot control price action. You can only control how much you risk and yourself. Okay. And the piece of yourself that is easiest to control is your thoughts and your behavior to an extent as a result of that. I'm so glad. Thank you for sharing that with me. I hope you find it helpful. Go ahead and watch that video and let me know. Leave me a comment in the video and let me know what you find helpful about it. And also, when you do that, if you leave a comment on a video, you can let other traders know what was helpful about it, and then they'll know if you know that video contains what they're looking for. So, okay, so have how many of you have seen this movie Inside Out? I absolutely adore this movie. It is a children's movie, but it is by far the best psychology movie I have ever seen. It is so profound, and it is a kids movie, but the concepts that they talk about are for adults. It also has Amy Poehler and a bunch of other great actresses from The Office. It's an excellent movie. I think you would really enjoy it. But the way that they talk about emotions is so profound, and the impact of emotions and why there's utility in emotions. So when we were talking about the amygdala yesterday, and Lufkin was talking about we were talking about the amygdala and having the amygdala removed because it is sort of interferes, right? So it would be easier if we didn't have a fear response. It's easy to think that, but remember, our fear response keeps us safe too. If we did not have a fear response to an extent when we were trading, we wouldn't worry about risk, and we would always be blowing up accounts. We'd be guaranteed, because we would just have no fear response, just like a child who touches a stove because they don't know that's dangerous, or a child who goes up to a dog and doesn't expect to get bitten, right? Our brain is what keeps us safe. The issue is sometimes it sort of misfires. This isn't what we want it to do. This isn't how we want it to respond. We don't want to be fearful when we're taking a trade. Sometimes we might even know that, yes, it's many trades over time that help, or I mean that matter, but our fear piece of our brain gets in the way and interferes with that. So even though we believe that mentally, our fear response gets in the way and messes up how we behave. And so what we can do in those situations, again, prepare in advance, rehearse ahead of time, speak to ourselves in a positive way during a trade, not only positive, but also speaking truths to ourselves during the trade. So you'll hear me, if you watch me trade, if I'm losing, I'm going to be saying to myself out loud and in my head, this is a valid trade. You risked appropriately. If your stop gets hit, that's fine. This is a part of trading. All traders take losses. And if you want to be a trader, you have to be okay with losing. That's it. Okay. All right. So how we think about a situation is actually what creates the emotion, not the situation itself. So it's not your stop getting hit that creates that fear response or that stress response. It's how you think about it. And again, you can practice thinking logically outside of the trading session so that you're prepared to think less emotionally and more logically, intellectually as you're trading. Oh, that's a great question. So Evelyn said, when I miss a trade, I mark the trade with the short long tool on TradingView to see how the trade would have played out. When it goes to the take profit, I always feel a bit upset. Should I stop this habit? I get upset about missing the trade. That's a really great question. And I will say, it kind of depends on you. And if you think that emotion is getting in the way or that thought is getting in the way, another way you could frame it is to say, oh, look, my edge played out. I can take comfort in the many trades that are to come. Now, I am saying this please know that I also am not immune to these things. I think this way too. This is how I combat that. So it is important for you to know, would this trade, did I see it correctly? Would this trade have played out? Would it not have played out? And so you can counteract that thought with, oh, look at that. I can have confidence in my edge, in my strategy moving forward, that I can be confident in this strategy. Didn't make this trade, but going forward, I know that I can have confidence that could have been a potential trade. The area where it gets tricky, this is the piece of trading that is so difficult. So I'll come back to it, the reinforcement issue. But it is helpful, I think, to mark it out and then work on retraining your brain. Because in a live trade, had you taken the trade and it worked out, right, you still want to be talking to yourself. And had you taken the trade and it not worked out, you want to be talking to yourself. So I think it's just a great way to practice saying these things to yourself. I do the same thing. And I do, also think, oh man, I wish I would have taken that. But then I have to stop myself. Is this thought serving me? Is this helpful to me? And if it's not, and if I'm thinking that it's not helpful, right? Because that happened, it's already gone. I need to replace that with, great, my edge played out, and you also need to be careful about the reverse. If it is a perfect setup and it doesn't work out, that doesn't mean that it wasn't the right trade. It still might have been, if it met all your criteria, it still could have been the right trade, that just, that trade didn't work out. Yes, Lefkin, the amygdala and the hippocampus. So you're very good. You're up on your brain anatomy. That's awesome. Great, Evelyn. Thank you. Okay. Oh, so what I was going to say about intermittent, didn't mean to give that away. Reinforcement. So if anyone has ever taken a psychology class or learned how to train an animal or something, I already just gave it away. I didn't mean to say that. What is the best way to train an animal for longevity? Does anybody know what type of reinforcement? Everybody's quiet this morning, so I don't know if anyone's going to answer, but there's different types of reinforcement, right? There's positive reinforcement, negative reinforcement, right? When you are training a dog, for example, if you give a treat to the dog every single time, when you're starting out, you give the treat to the dog every single time. As time goes on, if you always reinforce that behavior every single time to the end of time, if you ask for that behavior and you don't give the treat, eventually the dog will stop doing the behavior, right? The best way to reinforce a behavior is intermittent reinforcement. So if you sometimes give a treat for a behavior, not in the beginning when you're teaching the dog the behavior, but after the behavior is trained, right? The best way to ensure that a behavior lasts for the long term is to expect the behavior, ask for the behavior, and intermittently reinforce it. So that means if you ask your dog to sit, after that behavior has been learned, you don't reinforce with a treat every single time. Sometimes you give a treat when you say sit and the dog sits. Sometimes you give a treat, but not every single time. Again, after that behavior has been learned. And the reason is that is a stronger way to reinforce that behavior. Unfortunately for us as traders, that is exactly what the market does to us, right? If you imagine, if you took, let's say that you somehow knew exactly what the right entry was, and you took that every single time perfectly. Well, not every single time you take that perfect entry are you going to get a win. Okay. Sometimes you're going to get a loss. That's really powerful because it makes it really difficult to know, is this going to be a behavior that is rewarded, or is it going to be a behavior that's not rewarded? That's one of the things about, especially when you're starting out, before you've built up the experience to understand truly, how am I supposed to know if this is going to work or not? When I was first learning how to trade stocks, I was studying Investor's Business Daily. If you're familiar, it's a lot of chart patterns, cup and handle, saucer with handle, flat base, all that, or all of those things. Ascending triangle, descending triangle. I don't think that's part of IBD, but the cup and handle. Okay. And a lot of times I would worry and wonder, am I doing this correctly? I have no idea if I'm doing this correctly or not. And the issue is with any system, not just IBD, but with any system, sometimes it's perfect and the trade doesn't work out. And sometimes it's a terrible cup with handle and you get a win. Okay. That is really difficult for our brain to cope with. And that's really important. Somebody said a few weeks ago, they lost on CPI, so they're not going to trade CPI again. They're crossing that off their list. They won't trade on CPI. That is really, really difficult aspect about trading, because just because you lost that one time doesn't mean that it was CPI. Anyway, I'm getting off on a tangent, but that's one of the things that makes trading so difficult. Yeah, dog bones, milk bones, but don't give it to them every single time, because you want to intermittently reinforce those behaviors. All right, let me see what we want to go. I'm just going to keep going through these slides here. So we had talked at one point about automatic negative thoughts, and you can read through this slide if you want. That's not really what we're talking about today, but there is a video on my channel if you're interested in knowing more about this, about these automatic negative thoughts. But what I want to skip ahead to is this. Actually, we can talk about plasticity real quick. So plasticity in the brain is, we used to think, research has shown that the brain is actually, notice plasticity is like plastic. It's changeable, okay? That word sounds like plastic. The brain is actually pretty malleable and can change. And it used to be that they thought that the brain was, after like 3 years old, was pretty much static. And yes, you would learn things, but it didn't really change that much. And now we know through modern imaging that that it is quite typical for the brain to change on a chemical level, and actually physically, structurally can change based on what happens externally. Excuse me for 1 second. Let me grab a drink real quick. Okay, thank you. So we know that, for example, when someone has depression, when someone experiences depression, there are actual physical structures in the brain that will shrink. Okay. When you change the way you think, you can change the chemical makeup of your brain and the physical structure of your brain. And that's what plasticity is. So when we're starting the morning with the power pose, that is part of what we're doing. Okay. When we put our body in a certain way, right, a power posture, it doesn't have to be, hands on hips. It can be arms overhead, hands on hips, but standing up in a position of power, research shows that in 2 minutes, that can actually change the chemical, the hormones in your brain. So the research that I'm referring to, again, look back at the videos on my channel. Research shows that cortisol decreases, that's your stress hormone, and testosterone, the dominance hormone, increases after only 2 minutes. That is evidence of the plasticity of the brain and how the brain can change. So the point of what I'm trying to say is that how you think and how you act can actually change the brain on a physical and chemical and physical level. Okay. So this is why what we do, how we think as traders and relating to our trading is super duper important. And how we behave is also super important to our brain. Okay. It makes a change in our brain. So part of this is how we eat, how we sleep, how we move our bodies, how we relax, and how we think. This is all related to how our brain functions. And we have a responsibility, right, to treat our brain well, to do the things that we need to do in order to be the best traders that we can be. All right, I'm gonna skip ahead a couple slides here. All right, actually, I do have a couple slides talking about the fight, flight, and freeze response. All right, so all right, here we go. So I'm not sure how well you can see this. It is rather small, but a lot of times I hear traders talking about their responses, whether it's fight, flight, or freeze. So this is actually the slide that I'm showing here is the stress response in kids. But what I love about it is if you read through, it basically applies exceptionally well to traders as well. We as traders experience or can experience the exact same thing. Oh, good. You're still here. Margertini. There we go. Majertini. You were asking about the fight, flight, and freeze response, and this is exactly it. So as traders, we have this exact same experience, right? Some of us fight, some of us flee, and some of us freeze. And if you're reading through the slide, it's a little hard for me to see here. Let me see if I can make it bigger. This shows kind of the progression, right, from less severe on the top to more severe on the bottom, okay? So again, this is just like, again, even though this is for written with kids in mind, I think as traders, we experience something very, very similar to this. I think most people would agree that this is kind of what it looks like. All right. So when we're looking at the anxiety cycle, whether it is the fight, flight, freeze response, this is how it happens. So we have this anxiety cycle that we go through as traders, right? And you can see kind of on the bottom is the stimulus. The stimulus is whatever it is that we're having the emotional reaction to. And let me get where I don't think I can point on here. Okay. So we have the stimulus or whatever it is that is going to cause a response, cause a reaction. And here it says, before we get to the fight, flight, freeze response, is the interpretation. Okay. So we're interpreting something as dangerous. This is why when we do the mindset warm up, we're telling our body, I am fine. I am okay. Thank you for getting my heart rate up. Thank you for, getting my body ready for action or ready to flee, but I'm fine. I don't need to do this. Okay. I don't need to be worried. Calm down, take a breath, relax. Okay. That's what we're doing, is trying to turn off that danger signal. And practicing that ahead of time can be really helpful. So in other words, reminding ourselves through our thinking that not necessary, thank you so much, but I don't need to respond this way. I don't need to be afraid. I don't need to worry. Give your brain a little bit of a preview of what's to come. Like, hey, my stop might get hit, but I'm okay. I'm not in danger. I don't have to worry about it. That way, we won't have the type of fight, flight, freeze response. If we are not interpreting the trigger, the stimulus, as dangerous, then we're fine to go ahead, face it, and move on. Okay. I hope that makes sense. Okay, so Lufkin has a really great question here. So does your brain know you're kidding? Like acting as if I was successful, your brain will change just by acting it out. That is an excellent, excellent question. So you have the power. So acting is one way to say it. Sometimes we talk about it as faking or lying to your, I don't like lying because you're not really lying. These are truths, right? Like, for example, the stop loss. Before money's on the line, before emotions are on the line, this is a truth that I believe, right? But to your point about acting or faking, research shows that if you smile, even if you're not happy, there was, maybe you studied this in college, there was a research study where they had people rate cartoons for how funny they were. And then they had another group use like a pen or a pencil in their mouth in the shape of a smile. So they had them balance it to simulate a smile. And what they found was people who did that, so they mimicked the physical muscles of a smile. It doesn't look like a smile, right? But it's the same muscles. And it sends a message to your brain that you're happy. Okay. So they found that doing that, even though those people were not, they were seeing the same cartoons or whatever it was that they were doing, they saw the same thing, but the physical act of doing that with their mouth sent a message to their brain that said, oh, I'm happy. Okay. That's the same thing that we're doing with the power pose. You may not feel confident, okay? But if you're doing something that says your brain kind of recognizes like, oh, that's, they're standing up straight, their shoulders are back, they're in a position of power. It sends a message to your brain, oh, I know what that means, that's confidence, okay? So that's a really good question. I'm not sure if I totally answered it. Does your brain know you're kidding? Like acting as if I was successful. Basically, your brain doesn't know the difference, right? So if you still have significant doubts, maybe that would interfere, but it is okay to act as if you were successful, and your brain can accept that message, if you're doing those things. So if you're standing with confidence, if your chin is up, if you're smiling, those are ways that you will send to your brain, and your brain just accepts that signal without reading into it. But you have to remember that in conjunction with that are your thoughts. So you do want your thoughts to also be in line with, telling your thoughts, telling your mind, I am confident, I am happy, this is part of what I do. If a stop gets hit, that's part of it. Okay. So that's another way that you're sending signal to your brain. And so I hope that answers your question. It is fine to fake it till you make it. If you look on my community page, there's a TED Talk by Dr. Amy Cuddy, who talked about the power pose and the research behind the power pose. And she says that a lot of times she'll get questions about faking it. So people feeling disingenuous, they don't feel confident and they're doing this power pose and it feels fake to them. And she said that part of it is faking it, the expression fake it till you make it. And then there's another level of fake it till you become it. Okay. So if you are faking confidence and that's helping you do the right thing, and then you're doing the right thing, and that builds your confidence because now your performance is improving, which makes you more likely to be confident, which helps you do the right thing. Do you see what I mean? So there's a level of fake it till you make it, fake it till you become it. So these are just these tiny little steps. Your brain still may have doubts. You may still have doubts. Am I actually, confident just because I'm standing here with my hands on my hips for 2 minutes? It's possible. But again, these tiny little shifts, okay? If that helps you to adhere to your trading plan better, you're going to be more confident in your trading plan, because eventually some days it's going to work, right? And you're going to build that confidence and incrementally step closer and closer to your goals. I'm not saying that this is going to change things overnight, but building it up, doing it day in, day out will make a difference. All right. So again, the point here is it's not the stimulus that causes the fight, flight, fear response. It is actually the interpretation. That's what we're focusing on, the interpretation, and changing that interpretation ahead of time, working on that in the mindset warm up, working on that outside of trading. So I always share that I do the mindset warm up in the morning, and then I trade, and then I take a walk, and then I trade again. And sometimes I take another walk in the evening. And the point is, those are my times to rehearse what it is that I believe to be true about myself as a trader, what it is I believe to be true about trading, those behaviors, trading behaviors. We have to take time in our day to put in the thoughts that we want to have, that we believe are true, that don't always feel true when money's on the line and emotions are high. We have to take time to put in those opportunities to work on those thoughts. Okay. I love this quote here by Viktor Frankl. He said, between stimulus and response lies a space. In that space lies our freedom and power to choose a response. In our response lies our growth and our freedom, or our happiness, depending on the translation. So Viktor Frankl was an Austrian psychiatrist and Holocaust survivor. He basically saw his family, his whole family was killed in the Holocaust, and he survived. But he wrote some really good books talking about man's purpose and a person's purpose. And so he put in a lot of thought on these topics, like what is it between for him, a terrible situation, a terrible experience. And so that is the stimulus. And then the response. Okay. So that interpretation, that meaning, one of his most famous books is called, I think it's Man's Search for Meaning, or Man's Search for Meaning. And the point is that is where we have power. That is where we have the power to choose what it is we are going to allow ourselves to believe, what it is we're going to allow ourselves to think. And that's where we have control. Okay. Awesome. I'm so glad, Lufkin. Thank you so much for the feedback. I think it's really cool too that we, a lot of times we feel powerless when we come to the market, right? Because we can't control anything. We can't control price action. We can't control the outcome. I'm a person who likes to work harder, put in the effort and get the outcome that I desire, right? I think a lot of us are that way. And what is so frustrating about the market is that is not how this game works. How hard we work, how hard we show up, whatever it is, does not impact the outcome. You can think about that as problematic, or you can think about that as an opportunity to work somewhere else. So not working on forcing an outcome, but working on becoming the trader that you want to be, focusing on what you can control. And what you can control is the risk, your thoughts, and your behaviors. That's it. Those are the only things that you can control in the market. If I'm wrong, let me know in the comments, but those are the things. How much you risk. Obviously you can pick your strategy, okay, but you can't control how well your strategy works. So how much you risk, you have control over. How you think, you have control over, okay? You have the power to change how you think and how you behave, okay? It's very difficult to change how you behave unless you change how you think. If you've ever tried to lose 10 pounds or quit smoking or some other kind of, dramatic behavior change, stop yelling at your kids, right? Doing those things, creating those behavior change, those positive habits is really basically impossible unless you change how you think, okay? Finding your purpose, thinking about things that are going to help you achieve those goals. Okay. So somebody who's trying to quit smoking is going to have to recognize, thinking wise, this is killing me. This is not healthy for my body. Those thoughts are going to help create the positive changes. It doesn't make it easy, but that is what it's going to take. Okay. All right. Let's see if I want to say anything. Okay, so here, this is a video, a slide of the anxiety cycle. And again, this is so relevant to trading, right? It is so relevant to trading because this is what we go through as we're trading. We have this fear stimulus. I'm going to use stops because that is one that a lot of people talk about. So having a stop hit, that's the fear stimulus. Misinterpreting the threat, okay? Number 2. So if you're going step 1, step 2, step 3 in this cycle, misinterpreting the threat. So thinking that my stop is against me, the market makers are out to get me, getting my stops hit is what's causing the issues in growing my account. Okay, whatever it is, creates anxiety. And then safety seeking behavior. So that would be like moving your stop. If you're interpreting your stop as the fear stimulus, it would make sense. You don't want your stop to get hit, so you move it out of the way, right? Then you get temporary relief from anxiety because, whew, my stop didn't get hit, right? And then you go to the absence of corrective behavior. In other words, you don't get that that corrective behavior. And then, so let's say what that means would be like if the stop doesn't get hit and price continues in your direction, and then you start to loop over. So that is reinforced, okay? That behavior is reinforced. You moved your stop, and that's why it can be so difficult to respect your stop, because sometimes you get rewarded for it, sometimes you don't, right? Intermittent reinforcement. So again, practicing these things ahead of time, rehearsing ahead of time, spending your time working on these things ahead of time is what will help you do the right thing in the moment. Okay. Any questions or comments about any of this stuff that we've talked about so far today? Thank you so much for joining me this morning. It's been great having you here. Let me know if you have any other questions before I move on here, or anything you want to add, anything you want to share. It's so interesting to think about how our brains work and how our brains work as our trader mind, right? Our trader mind is a big piece of what we do every day. There's basically the three parts of trading. It's your method. Your method is your model or your strategy that you use. Your money management or your risk management, how much you risk, and then your mindset, your trading psychology. Those are the 3 M's of trading. And that's it. It's actually, much less complicated than sometimes we make it out to be. That doesn't mean it's easy, but if we can kind of break it down and simplify and think about things like that, it can help us to distill it down. So that means if you have your method or you have your model, your strategy, you know how to risk. So you've got your money management in place. If you have those 2 boxes checked and you're struggling, maybe it's your mindset that you need to focus on. So let me know if you have any comments or questions in the chat. I'll wait a couple minutes. The video that I was talking about, you were asking about the fight, flight, fear response. And let me see if I can get myself over to, I think this is this video right here, automatic negative thoughts. In this video, I talk about the fight, flight, fear response as well. So that could potentially be helpful if you're interested. And then these are my top 5 trading tips related to trading psychology. So if you're looking for tips on the fight, flight, fear response, those videos may help. I'm so glad. Thank you, Lufkin. Thank you, Evelyn. All right. So I'm looking forward to trading with you this morning. And what I am thinking I'm going to do okay. Lufkin said, tell me what you think of this quote. Your subconscious view on success is to blow up your account because that means you eliminated the fear. Your subconscious view on success is to blow up your account because that means you eliminated the fear. That's a lot of psychobabble. There is, I mean, let me think of how I want to respond to this. I don't think that, your subconscious view on success is to blow up your account because that means you eliminated the fear. I just don't really buy it, to be honest. I think there is okay, so let me go back to this slide here. So this here. Okay, so this is kind of along the lines of what this quote is talking about, that there is a fear stimulus, a threat, anxiety, safety-seeking behavior, temporary relief, and absence of corrective experience, and then that is reinforcing that the fear stimulus, the misinterpretation, anxiety, and so on. Okay. So I don't think that we have a subconscious view on success that causes us to blow up our account so that fear is eliminated. However, I do think that we tend I think there is a tendency to do the wrong behaviors because we misunderstand or misinterpret the meaning of certain things. So trading is very complex and very challenging because in a lot of ways it goes against a lot of the principles that are true in life. So like I was saying before, working hard, work hard and then you'll get success, right? That really doesn't apply in trading in the same way. Sometimes doing less in trading is actually doing more, right? I don't think that we have a subconscious desire to fail. There is, I will say, when I have blown up an account before, I did feel relief after, right? Honestly, as awful as that sounds, I did feel relief because I no longer had that stress. Even though I lost an account, I did feel, whew, okay, that's done. I don't have to worry about that anymore. But I don't think that indicates that we have a subconscious fear. I'm sorry, a subconscious view on success is to blow up your account. That means you eliminated the fear. It is true that once that stimulus is removed, you do not have that fear anymore. But I think where that comes from is doing the wrong behaviors and having unhelpful thoughts and unhelpful thinking. So we tend to think if I risk more, I can get the account back. If I'm in drawdown, I can get the account back to where I need it to be. I don't think it's as complicated as a subconscious view necessarily, that we don't want to succeed or something like that. I think we just tend to do the wrong behaviors at the wrong time. And so again, focusing on the thoughts and focusing on how your thoughts impact your behavior, you do the right thing, it impacts your emotions and your thoughts, and then therefore you'll do the right behavior. So we want to get out of this anxiety cycle by correcting number 2. Okay, so in this circle here, correct number 2, then your fear stimulus is just a stimulus, not a fear stimulus. Then you have no anxiety, no need to safety seek, to behave in a safety-seeking way, and we get out of that loop. But I don't think that we have an actual subconscious view that we want to succeed. I just think that sometimes our behavior is misguided because our thinking is misguided because this is not how we typically think. This is a probabilistic way of behaving, and we don't tend to think that way in our day-to-day lives. So not sure if that answers your question totally, but I think that we have a desire to succeed and to do well, and we want to do these things, but we're not necessarily equipped inherently in how we think about showing up to the market. And so again, I've said this 1,000 times today. I'm sorry to keep saying it. It's our thoughts that can change this for us. I don't think there's like a mysterious subconscious desire to fail or something like that. Did you don't have to say who you heard this from, but did you read that somewhere? Or did you I remember this is kind of an example that makes me think it relates to trading. I played softball in high school, and I was not very good, but all my friends were on the team, and they had all started playing long time ago. They'd played years and years and years, and I just wanted to play because I wanted to hang out with my friends after school and, you know, travel and like do the sports thing. So I had never played any sports. They were all super athletic, played a ton of sports, and I show up and I'm just like the odd man out. But it was a blast, right? And sometimes I would play, and I don't know why pop flies are so intimidating to me, but I would you know, be in position to catch a pop fly. Wow, sorry. Why does that happen? Sending you out the window. Be in position to catch a pop fly. What in the world? Oh my gosh. Track Me Tiny. That's my camera's name. Sorry. Going rogue there. It's a beautiful day out, so maybe the camera just wants to enjoy the beautiful sunny day instead. So I would be in position to catch these pop flies. So intimidating, so scary, right? And I'd have my glove up and I'd be holding my breath. And I remember I would be like, okay, I can either go for it and catch the ball, right? That's what a lot of my friends would have done. Even if they failed, they would have tried to catch the ball, or I could just and let it drop. And sometimes, most of the time, I would just miss it. And there was relief in that. And I always hated thinking about that. Like, I actually missed the ball and I feel relief. So that's kind of along the lines of what you're thinking about, what you're talking about. It was almost like it was better to fail and not try than to try and maybe miss. That might be revealing too much psychology. Personal psychology, but I actually think a lot of people do this. It's like we would rather not try and fail, or really say, I am giving it my all. I am trying so hard and I failed. I think that's more threatening. I don't know. I don't want to discount what somebody else is saying, but I choose to believe, and I do believe that we have a subconscious desire to do well. Sometimes it's just misguided.